Right, guys, my name's Anthony Cummins, and this is my phone. Okay, Great World Religions, Hinduism, by the Great Courses by Professor Mark W. Musay. I think it's so small I can't do that. So it's 6 hours 5 minutes long, and I've just finished it yesterday. Okay, so I finished that yesterday because I'm starting to write on Zen. And if you want to know about Zen, you've got to know about Buddhism. If you want to know about Buddhism, you've got to at least dip into Hinduism. So I did it all. I did a long journey, car journey of 6 hours, did it all. And you know what is really surprising and shocking is, and I knew Buddhism had its start on its place in other religions, but oh my God, there's literally, what bit of Buddhism is not Hinduism? So, the cycle of life and death, samsara, Hindu. Yep. Moksha, release from that cycle, Hinduism. Is it puja? Giving reverence to deities and all that, Hinduism. I'm like, which bits are this? Reincarnation. Yep, okay, Hinduism. Karma, Hinduism. Like, whoa. So, like Catholicism, so basic Christianity, guys, is the offshoot of Judaism, and it's just that everybody worshipped the Judaic religion, the Judaic God, the Abrahamic gods, and basically Christ came along and said, it's right, but you've got to do it this way to get there. Buddha came along and went, Hinduism's right, but you've got to do it this way. The only difference I can actually see between Hinduism and Buddhism, I know there'll be lots of technical I'm talking about like in its broad sense, is that it ignores the caste system and it ignores the Vedic traditions too. And I know, as I say, so there's the other where then you get onto the greater vehicle and lesser vehicle in Buddhism, where one of them's got the secrets from beforehand and all this stuff. So, but we're just going with let's stick with the basics of Buddhism. You are in suffering. You are going to need to get out of suffering. You do it this way. So it almost seems to me, and I could be wrong, guys, and I'm not a Buddhist, I am not Hindu, I am literally a man with questions. And it seems to me that Buddhism seems to be a strain of Hinduism, but only one strain, which talks about enlightenment, enlightenment in life and the cessation from the going round in the wheel. Now, in Hinduism, it seems, I can't remember, somebody put it below, the three different ways, the way of wisdom, the way of devotion. I think there's one more I can't quite remember. And one of them's about trying to focus on realization. One of them's about devoting yourself to another god. And I find it really interesting. One of my main interests, and this is outside of any of my work and research, is just because it sounds amazing, is the idea of, and you're not allowed to say this because you get murdered online, but basically the Yamnaya culture, the Aryan race, basically, from the Caspian Mountains, coming across with the Vedic traditions. Now, basically, from some Caspian Mountains, called Caucasus Mountains. That's why they're called Caucasian people that came across, and they went into the Indus Valley, and you got the farmers, and they've now done the DNA tests of the white people came in. The two other strands are very dark southern Indian people, and I think some of it's either the farmers and the hunter-gatherer groups were there. And the Aryan race brought with them the Vedic traditions, and I was quite interested. I thought, all right, so the Vedic traditions from the Caucasian people has been captured. Our roots have been captured in India, and we can look at the Rig Vedas and everything. But actually, they're not very good. It's just basically really, really old style religion of like, let's pray to this god and let's sacrifice the animal in this way and say this thing. It's sort of devotion, the devotion aspect of that. But the guy was saying he couldn't find anywhere in the Vedas where reincarnation comes in. So he thinks it might be reincarnation comes from the Indus Valley, not the Aryan race coming in. But that doesn't account for is it Caesar's account of the Druids, where he says they just think their soul goes to another body when they die, which would say it was the Aryan, the Vedic tradition. But so that's a problem. But anyway, that's just for me detaching earlier. But when you take it as Hinduism, it's mental, guys, that for all the arguing about white, black, race, this, that, and the other in the world, we are so connected, genuinely. Like, the Caucasus people went from here into Indus Valley and in here and brought the words we speak, Indian, Irish, English, they're all based on the same PIE root, the Proto-Indo-European root, okay? It's all basically there. There's very little across Europe which isn't. And it's like they all come from that. The Hittites, the lot. I remember watching a documentary on the Hittites, and they were like, "Yeah, we only know that they where they're from because we understand the word water, and that it's the same as the English word water. And they're Indo-European speaking peoples, and they're another Caucasian race that have come in. Obviously, by Caucasian, there's different shades of Caucasian. I'm about as northwest as you can get, but there's also the Iranians. But again, you know, very white, very pale skin. So it's mental to think the origins of Buddhism lie in this invasion and two cultures mixing together, and then what seems to the Rig Vedas don't really seem to match some of the other stuff, the reincarnation, the cycle, and I say I'm not an expert. That's where it seems to all get a bit crazy, and they've tried to make the two fit, is what this professor is saying. And for those back in Buddhism, so back to Buddhism, it just seems really crazily strange that there's not that much far removed beyond Buddhism is a streamlined. So it almost feels like you've had Catholicism as streamlined Judaism and Protestantism as streamlined Catholicism, to the point where it's like, right, yeah, you don't need all that. You don't need to worship. So I was brought up Catholic. You go worship St. Anthony, you go worship Mother Mary and all this, and you do all these different saints, and you go around and you have all these different spells and all that, what you do, and this, we do this for this and that, there's this pit of wafer and this blood there, and the Protestants are like, no, just get rid of all that, just pray to God, sort it out, you don't need all that, you don't need elves and Christmas, get back in. And then you get like the Jehovah's Witnesses who are like, no, you don't even need any of that, you're not doing it. So it gets really strange. So it does, after listening to that, it does feel that Buddhism was extremely, it was just a Protestant version of Hinduism. And I couldn't really, and it seems to have grown in popularity because of you don't need to be a Brahmin, you don't need to be at the top level, the palest skin to get in there. Forget those sort of racist elements. You don't have to be any colour, you don't have to be any caste, there's no, just you do it, and you can do it too. So it's almost like it's gone, we don't need all them years of like the political aspect being clodded onto it, let's break it off, and that is your original Hinduism there, without all the hundreds of years done that, you know what I mean? So which is what Protestantism tried to do to Catholicism, which in the turn tried to do to Judaism. It's like, yeah, you don't need all that, stop it. So what do you think, guys? How far wrong am I? How much of a conversation is this in the religious world that, you know, Buddhism, when I was listening to him, beyond there is tons more in Hinduism than there is in Buddhism by a long shot, all like the different gods and all that. But then, of course, you've got all the Buddhist gods, which are, at the end of the day, just Indian gods, which is crazy when people, from us guys, we talk about Japanese and stuff, that the Japanese are actually using Sanskrit, which sort of was developed with the Aryans, roughly and around that time. Not obviously, the Aryans themselves came in later, but you got, so basically going right back, you got the Proto-Indo-Europeans, they go into Yamnaya culture, corded ware, beakerware culture, starts breaking up, and they then later become, or the descendants become, the Greeks, the Romans, the Anglo-Saxons and everything. When they've all set themselves in place, they then develop their own customs, but that's why they're connected. The Irish are all based from there, the Egyptians, allegedly, with their ginger hair and white skin and all that. And then over years, this starts to build, and it's like 3,000 years later, you've got Hinduism going, you know, this is it, and then this is it, and Buddha's got like, well, actually, we've got to sort this out. It's been generations upon generations of this god, that god, mixing it all in, it's too much. So what do you think, guys? I'm just at the beginning of this journey into deciphering Buddhism, but I do end up, my aim is to pull a book out of it, to sort of like go through all these questions and pull something out in the future. But for the minute, I will be bringing a book out on Zen, Samurai Zen and things like that. That will be coming out in a year, roughly about a year, just before, what day are we on? Yeah, probably next Christmas. It'll be out for next Christmas. So apologies for those people waiting for this book, but it's going to be a while. As you guys know, follow me, I've got to do the build. So if you are interested in my books, they're obviously behind you. But if you're interested in Buddhism, you might be interested in Yin Yang here. So this might help you. The Ultimate Guide to Yin Yang on Kindle and on hardbook. Right, guys, let me know what you think. I am looking forward to all your comments below. Let's see what you've got to say.